friends. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Wendy, and this is my mobile home, Sweet Home. I wanted to talk to you guys today about living in a mobile home park. If you buy a mobile home and then it's sitting in a mobile home park, so you have to pay space rent every month for that lot, and that's obviously not for everybody. A lot of people would prefer to own the land that their mobile home sits on, which, probably makes more sense from a financial standpoint. But for someone like me, I have no interest in doing that. I'm 65 years old. I don't want to be responsible in any way for any property. I'm perfectly content to pay space rent here every month, and yeah, and that suits me perfectly. I live in a 55 plus mobile home park. It is very beautifully maintained, and there are a lot of rules out here, and and that's okay because that keeps things looking nice out here. And the thing is, when you move in, well, if you find one you want to buy, before the sale can go through, you need to get permission or approval, what have you, from the owner to be a tenant out here. So, and these are the things I want to talk about are things you need to know and or consider before you buy a mobile home that's sitting in a place that you have to pay lot rent every month. So, obviously, the first thing a person should do is to very carefully read that contract or lease agreement, whatever you want to call it. You need to read that so that you know what is expected of you when you become a tenant. And you also need to know what their part's going to be as the owner. What are they going to provide and take care of as the owner of the real property? So, one thing I would strongly encourage anyone looking to buy a mobile home, and now I'm not talking about a brand new mobile home, I'm talking about a used mobile home that's sitting in a mobile home park. If you can, I highly suggest that you hire a home inspector to go over the home and determine if anything needs to be repaired or what have you before you buy it. I have a very dear friend that just bought a mobile home a couple months ago in a park, and she had made an offer on it, but nothing had she'd made an offer on it. I think they had accepted it, but right when it was, before she plunked her money down, she had an inspection done on it, and thank God she did because she had looked that place over pretty good, and she was no rookie. She has owned mobile homes before, and she knew what she was doing. But there's only so much that you can do and know, just as a regular person. And she hired that home inspector, and he came back and said, that roof is toast. That place needs a new roof, and all the insulation is wet, and that place was a disaster. It looked good just walking in and looking at it, and looking around outside, and didn't see any leaks or anything, but lo and behold, it needed a new roof. And as anyone who's had to pay for something like that knows, they are very expensive. So she bailed on that. Luckily, it came through, the inspection came through before any money had been paid to the seller. So she said, forget it. I don't want this. But she did end up finding one that was and had it inspected and it was in good shape. But the point is, if she hadn't had that inspection done, she would have had a mess on her hands. So thankfully, she did get a home inspection. Now, I don't know. I think she told me that that inspection cost her $300, but I don't remember. I honestly don't remember what the amount was that the inspector charged her. And it was in a different state. So, and that is one thing you need to keep in mind as well. Different states have different rules and regulations. So you need to know the rules in your particular state. There is a thing called the Mobile Home Landlord Tenant Act, and each state has their own rules and regulations, and you need to make sure that you clearly understand what is expected of you as the tenant and what is expected of the landlord as owner. And you need to know that stuff so that you not only know what your rights and responsibilities are, but you also need to know what the owner's rights and responsibilities are. So that is, that's huge. You need to know that stuff. I always say, too, if you can find someone that lives in the park to talk to and say, hey, what's it like living out here? See what they have to say if you can find someone. I don't know that you should go knock on someone's door. I guess you could, but I don't know that I don't think I would recommend that. But that's up to you. If that's what you want to do, then whatever. But if you can talk to a tenant out there and find out, what do you think about living out here? That's obviously a good idea. Anytime you can get information, it's a huge help. So, yeah, if someone's outside puttering in their yard, maybe you could say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And just kind of see. But, be careful doing that because not everybody wants to, you know, partake in a conversation like that. So just use your judgment on that. But, you obviously need to know what the space rent is. And part of knowing the Landlord Tenant Act, part of knowing, the rights and responsibilities is you need to know how often they can raise the rent and by how much. We just raised the rent last month, so how long down the road until the owner can raise the rent again? You just need to know that stuff so that you aren't taken by surprise when and if that happens and oh, you've got a rent increase. So make sure you know your rights and responsibilities and you know how much the rent is and what all that rent entails. What does that cover? Out here in the park I live in, the rent covers water, sewer, garbage, which is huge because that's expensive. So I'm really thankful that they pay that. It really helps. When I first moved in out here in December of 2011, the rent was $260 a month, and it is now, oh gosh, all these years later, it has just gone up a couple months ago to 375, which that is still a good deal because for the most part, rent space rent in area mobile home parks, it can be pretty expensive. So you really need to educate yourself before you move in. Um, let's see, I wrote a few thoughts down so that I could remember to tell you some things I wanted to go over. Oh, yes. One thing you might run into excuse me, owning an older mobile home. For one thing, I want to say right up front, I love my mobile home. This is a 1981 double wide. When I bought it, it was in good shape, but it was tired. And, you know, pipes started breaking, not because they weren't wrapped, but because they were old. It's a 40-year-old mobile home and things are wearing out. And that's, nothing to do with someone not taking care of it. That's just what happens in any home as time goes on, whether it's a mobile home or a stick built home. Things wear out. So after a few pipe breaks, because they were old and cracked, I had to have a plumber come in and totally replace all the pipe underneath this place. So I did that, and I am so glad I did, because there is nothing that will strike dread in your heart when you walk in and the house is quiet and you hear that telltale sign of water running somewhere. It's like, oh no. Oh no. That happened to me. It was, oh gosh, I have to do a little detour here to tell you this story. I think I have shared this before on a past video, but I don't remember. So forgive me if you're hearing this again. But for those of you that haven't heard it, it was January, and I hadn't lived here all that long. It wasn't, because I bought this place in December of 2011. So it wasn't the January immediately following that. I think it was the next year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I had been shopping. It was a beautiful, cold, sunny day. It was very cold. We were having some unseasonably cold weather. It was like down in the 20s. It was just awful. Anyway, I came home one day from shopping, and, the house was quiet, and I heard that sound, and I thought, uh oh. And I, kind of followed my ears, and I could hear it. And I opened up the back door and stepped out on the deck, and shooting out of the side of my house, like where this, it was going through the crack where the skirting meets the house, water shooting out of there. Oh, that was horrible. So you just have that moment of panic, like, what am I going to do? So I called a very, very good friend, long time friend. I called her husband and said, oh my God, I've got a broken pipe. What am I going to do? And he said, I'll be right there. Well, he came right out. God bless him. He was sick with terrible bronchitis. He was so sick. So he gets the siding off, or the skirting, so he could see what exactly was going on. And he went to turn the water off to my house. Well, it's underneath. Great, and you could see it when you looked under the house, but you had to crawl in a bit to reach the knob to turn it off. And there was no way on God's green earth that I was crawling under this house or any house. I do not do that. So he crawls under the house to turn the water off. He grabs the knob and it comes off in his hand. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So anyway, he managed to get it shut off, and he's laying underneath my house in about this much water, cold, remember it's like below 20 degrees or somewhere around there. He's sick. He's laying in that ice cold water trying to get that pipe temporarily fixed so he could go get, some supplies and fix it correctly. And he goes to move out from under the house. He sat up and he cracked his head on the steel beam underneath the house. I tell you, you find out who your friends are in a situation like that. And yes, we're still friends. So, oh man, I was so thankful for him that day. But that's when I ended up, he said, "You're going to have to call a plumber. This is too much to fix just to, get by with this. You need some extensive work done here." Well, luckily his nephew is a plumber, so he called his nephew and said, "Hey, got a friend here and she desperately needs." So that guy came out and fixed it like the next day, but oh man, that was a terrible experience. So just be prepared. If you buy an older mobile home, things are going to need to be repaired or updated, what have you, unless you buy one that someone's already done all that, which would be a sweet deal. But yeah, so, you know, just be warned. But one point I also wanted to make was, sometimes it's really hard to find people who will work on mobile homes, especially the older ones, because, bless their hearts, nothing is square. Everything's kind of wonky. They used a lot of different parts in these older mobile homes. Like, for instance, my kitchen sink, it's still the same one. I don't know if it's ever been replaced by whoever owned this before, but it's the one that was here when I moved in, and it's not a real deep sink. It's like, the classic mobile home kitchen sink that, isn't the same size as a kitchen sink on a stick built house. Just be prepared for stuff like that. Do your homework and research things and just kind of find out what you're getting into. And I don't want to scare anyone off from buying a used mobile home, because I have owned, this is the third mobile home I've owned in my life. And one of them was brand new. We bought when my middle daughter was a brand new baby. And then many years after that, I ended up buying a older single wide. So this isn't my first mobile home that I've owned. But, so I kind of had an idea of what I was getting myself into. But I absolutely love my home. I love it. I have poured my blood, sweat, and tears into this place, literally. I've had a lot of improvements done out here, and I've done many things myself, just be just me. And so, like I've painted and, this, that, and the other, which, if you've been here with me for a while, you've seen videos I've done of the different projects and that. I mean, I love nothing more than, working on this place or, painting or what have you. But I have never once regretted buying this home. So just find out, if as much as you can beforehand, if it's even something you want to tackle. And that's where having a home inspector will help you, because he might come back and say, "Okay, the hot water heater is fine, but you're probably going to have to replace it, in another year or so, because it's, just stuff like that." I mean, that would be nice to know in advance, because if your hot water heater goes out, those things ain't cheap. And that is one thing I did have to replace, was the hot water heater. So yeah, and they're expensive. So just, being forewarned is helpful. The fewer surprises, the better. But one thing I wanted to also stress to you, and I have brought this up before in a previous video, is to keep good records of the work you do to your home. I have a folder, a big, one of those pocket folders, and I keep a notebook in there. Actually, I think it's a composition book, but I keep a record of the things I've done to this place. Like on such and such date, got the heat pump installed. And, they also installed two new bathroom fans. And they also had someone, an electrician, come out and check the furnace to make sure it was in good working order. Even though I was having the heat pump installed, that guy that installed it told me in the winter when it's really, really cold, you're probably going to have to use your furnace as well, because apparently the heat pumps don't work real great in super, super cold weather, which I have found to be true. But I didn't have my furnace, the original furnace, I didn't have that removed, and I would strongly recommend that you don't do that just in case. And let you know if you can. If you need to have that pulled out and a new one put in, then clearly that's a different situation. But if your furnace still works and you're having like a heat pump installed, I would strongly recommend that you keep that furnace. So you might need it someday, and you'll be very, very glad that you listened to Wendy. Just kidding. But, and I also, on that note, I do want to add I am no expert. In case you couldn't tell, I am just a 65-year-old woman that has owned this mobile home since December 5th, 2011. And I'm going strictly off of my own personal experience and that of a couple friends who have also owned older mobile homes. And so that's it. I'm not a home inspector or anything at all, even remotely resembling any kind of professional. Yeah, so keep good records. I make a note in that folder, in that notebook, even when I paint a room, on such and such date, I painted an accent wall in my living room, just because, it's kind of nice to look back and think, God, when did I do that? Or when did that carbon monoxide detector get installed? I think it might be time to replace the batteries in it or something. And then write down the date you replaced the battery in your smoke alarms or your carbon monoxide detector, things like that. Keep track of that stuff, even little things like replacing a battery in something, because you never know. It might be to your advantage at some point to have that information readily available to you. Especially like if you're going to sell it, it'd be nice to be able to present the new owners with, here, this is everything I've done to this house since I've owned it. So, that is also something I really strongly recommend. But to finish this up, I wanted to talk lastly about the importance of being a good neighbor. And this does not apply just to mobile homes. This applies to wherever you live. If you're on a city street in a stick built house, or in an apartment, or in a mobile home park, wherever you are, the importance of being a good neighbor. Like I've said, they're pretty strict out here with how you're expected to keep your home up. And, it's kind of gotten a little more relaxed in the past few years due to the landlord's age. But he does have somebody that's, helping him a lot. Because, he's 93 years old. But, there was a time that when they ran a tight ship out here, and they still do. I'm not saying that they don't. It's just not quite as strict as it was before, but it's still, it's expected of you to toe the line and do what you signed on that contract, what it said you need to do, as a tenant, your responsibilities. So, but for instance, there is a mobile home park in this area that is about as opposite of this place as you could possibly get. Not going to mention any names, but I'm sure you've all seen places like that. It's the what everybody in visualizes a mobile home park, a trailer park. God, I hate that. I hate that. What people visualize when they hear the word trailer park or mobile home park. Please use mobile home. But it's a dump. And there are some pretty scary people that live in there. But, you know, if you live in a place like that, then I'm really sorry. And I pray for your safety. But, living in a community, like this, where we've got big lots out here, but you're pretty close together, and I love it out here. I've got wonderful neighbors. We used to have so much fun out here, like not this last eclipse we just had earlier this month in April, but the one a few years ago. We had an eclipse party. It happened here at about, I think it got dark at 10:30 in the morning. And so what we did, about 9:30 or so, the neighbor that lived across the street from me then, she was the coolest person. I just adored her. She had a cart, a utility cart thing that she had in her kitchen. She just rolled that thing right out to the carport, and she had a couple pots of coffee out there, and all, sugar and creamer, and big plate of cinnamon rolls. And some of the other neighbors came over, brought their lawn chairs, and we sat out there and watched the eclipse. It was fantastic. It was so fun. And it was just really cool because, every home out here has a street light at the corner of your driveway. And to see all those lights come on in because it got dark at 10:30 in the morning, that was really cool. That was fun. I'm getting off track. I'm sorry. But the point I'm trying to make is to be a good neighbor, and I keep to myself out here. I have lived here all these years, and I've never once been to the monthly potluck they have over at the clubhouse. I'm not like antisocial or anything, but I just kind of keep to myself. I don't socialize at things like that. But I am friendly to my neighbors, and if someone needs help, I love to offer to help somebody, if they need it. And, for instance, there used to be a very elderly gentleman that lived next door to me. And one day, it was a few years ago in the summertime. Man, we had a hot summer that year. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was taking my garbage out, and I heard a hey, and I looked, and it was him. He was laying in the grass. He lost his footing and he fell, and he couldn't get back up. And I don't know how long he laid out there until I came out, but I like, oh my gosh, are you okay? What's going on? And so I said, hey, I'm going to call 911 for you because I can't pick you up. And I don't think anyone should. We need to make sure you're not hurt. And he's like, he knew it. So I ran back in the house and grabbed him a sofa pillow and took out and put under his head and called 911 for him. But, just things like that, without being intrusive, be friendly and offer help if help is needed, and taking care of your home is really important. Not only is it important for the home itself, to provide upkeep on your home and keep it in good condition. But, if all the neighbors around you take really good care of their homes and keep their lawns mowed, and, you know, the home looking nice and tidy, and that, and the lot being cared for, the lawns mowed, and this and that, that's really important, a real courtesy to your neighbors as well when, you know, someone doesn't do those things and it starts looking really bad. And this is just my opinion, but it's very inconsiderate to your neighbors. If you are unable to do the things that need to be done out here, you would have to hire somebody to do it. And it is expected when you move in and sign that contract that if you are unable to say, let's say, mow the lawn, then it is up to you to hire someone to mow the lawn for you so that, it's the upkeep is being provided in that. So, you obviously, when you get ready to move into a place like this, you need to realize that there are going to be a certain amount of expenses involved, as there is with any home ownership. That's just life. You have to maintain the property you own or rent. So, and there is a difference between renting a mobile home that's in a mobile home park. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about owning the mobile home that is located in a mobile home park where you pay space rent each month. That's what I'm talking about in this particular video. So, anyway, I hope those tips are helpful to someone. I hope it has given you some things to think about if you are considering purchasing a mobile home that's located in a mobile home park or community, well, however you want to say it. But I hope it's been helpful to someone, and if nothing else, has maybe given you a different perspective on things. So, anyway, if you have anything you want to add to this, please feel free to say so in the comments. I'm sure I didn't cover everything, but hopefully I gave you some things to think about and consider. Hopefully there was something in there you hadn't thought of yourself. So if you are, if you do end up buying a mobile home well, it doesn't matter if it's in a mobile home park. If you do end up buying a mobile home, like a used one or what have you, please let me know. I love hearing those stories, and my favorite channels on YouTube are ones where someone has an older mobile home and they have a mobile home channel that's dedicated to, upkeep and renovation of their home. So, yeah, I really enjoy that, clearly. So, thank you, as always, for tuning in and stopping by. And I just really appreciate you all so very much. So I hope that if you aren't a subscriber, that you will consider subscribing to my channel. And if you could hit that like button, that'd be really helpful too. Thanks you guys so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.